It's been 1 year since a record number of Americans cast their ballots in the 2020 election. In terms of turnout, it was a triumph. Joe Biden winning 81 million votes and the presidency. But 1 year later, Donald Trump continues to lie to himself and the nation about the results. With a new PRI American Values survey showing that 82% of Republicans who trust Fox News and 97% of Republicans who trust OAN and Newsmax still believe the 2020 election was stolen. Now, sometimes you'll hear Trump's handmaidens point to that lack of confidence in the election as the reason why they're pursuing voter suppression and election subversion efforts under the cloak of election integrity. But of course, that confusion is a direct result of Trump's lies. And that's why we wanted to offer up a definitive list of the nearly 200 times Trump claimed our elections were rigged, stolen, or fraudulent before the 2020 election. Because that's how you can see that Trump's big lie doesn't have anything to do with the specifics of the 2020 election. It's a cut and paste job, a reflexive bleat whenever Trump is confronted with the reality of his worst fear, that he is a loser. And you can see it in Trump's first appearance on a presidential ballot, the 2016 Iowa caucuses, which he narrowly lost to Ted Cruz. And you can guess Trump's reaction. "Ted Cruz didn't win Iowa. He stole it," Trump tweeted. "Based on the fraud committed by Senator Ted Cruz during the Iowa caucus, either a new election should take place or Cruz results nullified." Same script, different election. But Trump's emotional projection racket got really deafening in the final weeks of the 2016 campaign.
The process is rigged. This whole election is being rigged. There is the issue of voter fraud. Isn't it amazing the way they say there's no voter fraud? Folks, it's a rigged system, and it's a rigged election, believe me.
John, I've been saying for a long time, it's a rigged system. It's just terrible what's going on.
The system is corrupt, folks, and I've been saying it, it's rigged. I've been saying it for a long time. The system is rigged.
In fact, Trump made claims like this 40 times before Election Day in 2016. That's according to the data analytics firm FactBase. And it came with the threat, of course, that Trump wouldn't accept the results if he lost. But the election wasn't rigged. Trump won the electoral vote while losing the popular vote by an unprecedented 2.9 million. And nonetheless, a week after the election, Trump was pushing a new lie, claiming that, quote, "I won the popular vote if you deduct the millions of people who voted illegally." And as president, Trump's predictions of mass voter fraud began more than a year before the 2020 election. Like this all-caps tweet from October 2019. "Democrats want to steal the election," followed 2 days later by this riff.
They're trying to steal your vote and silence your voice.
Remember, this was months before COVID hit and mail-in ballots became his negative obsession. Trump predicting that it would result in the greatest rigged election in history. And this kept up at a manic speed. The president saying that America was about to have a rigged and stolen and fraudulent election, a prediction he made at least 143 times before Election Day 2020, again, according to FactBase. He was preparing his base to reject the results if he lost. And occasionally he let his plans slip, like admitting in September that he hoped the Supreme Court would intervene on his behalf. 3 days later, at a rally near Harrisburg, he tipped his hand to overturning the election in Congress.
I don't want to go back to Congress either, even though we have an advantage if we go back to Congress. Does everyone understand that? I think it's 26 to 22 or something because it's counted one vote per state.
Awfully specific. And all these claims of a rigged and stolen election were just another form of Trump's projection. Because he was the one trying to do the rigging. He was planning on doing the stealing and normalizing that threat in the minds of his supporters. Election night just put this in overdrive, kicking off 755 times He claimed the election was stolen or rigged until President Biden's inauguration, spiking in the days leading up to the attack on our Capitol. This isn't in the rearview mirror. It's a mass delusion that lives on, at least in the minds of Republicans who are still cowed by this con job 1 year later. The evidence shows that Trump was preparing for the big lie before the election ever occurred. It has nothing to do with the debunked claims of fraud. It has everything to do with Trump trying to protect his fragile yet massive ego from the prospect of loss, even at the expense of our democracy. And that's your reality check.